Hey everyone, I wanted to do kind of a quick video, hopefully quick, about my process of making a journal cover, at least one of the ways I like to do it. So, I kind of prepped everything that I can, so you don't have to watch every step. I'll try to explain it. This is a book, old book that I had. It's a poetry book, and I could use it just like this. I think it's kind of pretty, but it's for a botanical book, so I'm covering it with fabric for the first step. And I have taken out, just with an X-Acto knife, I've cut along here carefully to get the pages out of the book. And this is the fabric I'm going to cover it with. So I've made it just a little bit larger than the journal. Hopefully you can see most of it. There we go. And I've just made it a little bit larger. It's just going to kind of wrap around this. I'm going to Mod Podge it in place. And I'm going to walk you through how I do this spine, just to give you an idea and get you thinking about it. So this is some heavy duty chipboard right here. And this is from a Priority Mail Tyvek envelope. And I just do that because it's super sturdy. So it'll really help between these different places. I cover mine in fabric just because I don't want to see it later on. And I leave a lot of extra because when I put this in, which will be later in the process, I use it to adhere. Not only will it adhere actually behind the spine right here, but I'm also going to be adhering it on these two sides just to give it some extra stability in that journal. And just depending on the number of holes you want, depending on the width of your journal, will depend on how wide you make your little bit of chipboard. This is actually from just a graph paper notebook, the back of that, and it's super sturdy and stable, and I like that. And I make a template with graph paper just to match that up so that when I come to put in my signatures later, I have an exact template just to help with that process. So chipboard, and then the Tyvek Priority Mail envelope, and then the fabric again. And you could use any fabric or paper. I just want it to be pretty after I put in those signatures, so I do that now. And that's going to slip right into this slot. And I try it all out before I finalize the size using the template to make sure that that is going to flip in there nice and neat and the book is still going to shut. So the first thing I'm going to do here is go ahead and Mod Podge this down. You ever want to call it Mod Podge? Because I do. So I'm going to start on one side, and I want to make sure I get into these little crevices too. A pretty decent covering, not too much, because you don't want it to really glop through your fabric too much, but you want it to be secure. All right, there's the cover. I'm going to start with that. And put that down and just kind of leave equal spacing around. I left some extra over on this far end of the fabric because just in case when I tuck the fabric into those crevices, I wanted to make sure that there was plenty. These crevices right here along the spine. So I'm just going to press that in. Get all the wrinkles out. All right, and that part's done. So let's go ahead and move on to the spine. It's kind of a fun process, the Mod Podge part. At least I like it. And I love to use book covers. Some people will do like a cereal box or whatever, and that's okay. I love the thickness of an old book cover, just the sturdiness of it. You just can't really duplicate that feel. But that's okay, like I still use the other kind for some journals as well. Alright, so I'm just pressing that fabric down, making sure I'm keeping that beautiful crease along both ends of that spine because I love it. So I don't want to lose that. Alright, back part now. I'll probably do this video in a couple of parts just because I don't want you to have to watch every step along the way. There are plenty of tutorials out there. I just thought, you know, I should have my version of it too, because sometimes it's nice to see different perspectives on the same process. Give you a little bit different idea. So why not? All right, make sure everything's covered. You gotta work kind of quick, it dries pretty fast. I'm gonna go ahead and pull that. Got a fuzzy. And just really work out those creases. Here we go. And this stuff does dry pretty quickly, so we should be good. And I'm just going to go back one more time and just make sure that those beautiful creases are still going to be there when this dries. All right. So that's about what we've got. And I have a little extra fabric over here now that I'm done on this end right here. So I'm going to go ahead and just eyeball it, trim it down just enough so that I have enough to wrap the book. Now I'm going to cut out triangles here on these corners, not all the way down, just enough that it'll reduce some of that bulk on these corners when I Mod Podge that in place. All right, so let's start. Let's do the sides. I like to kind of dab it in here so it gets along the actual cover, the edge of that cover. And then I'm just going to come along here, make sure that that's going to cover up the space where the fabric is. And I've got plenty, which is good. It's okay if there's a little extra. You know what I'm going to do first that I forgot to do? That's pull this corner down. So plop that corner in because I want that folded down first. Then get some extra fabric or some extra Mod Podge in there. Fold that down. It's okay if you get some little stringies. You'll have time to cut that off later, so no big deal. I got to come down here on this corner now. Go ahead and tuck that little extra bit up. So it'll just give it a nice mitered edge. There. All right, so I'm going to work in opposites. I'll do this end, then I'm going to come over here and do this end. Oh, look at that. Oh, I have an extra paper. Let's take that out. That can be used for something else. Cool. Bonus. All right, so I'm going to tuck that in first this time. I'll remember that. And just squish it in there. Get some down here on this corner. And miter that edge in. Just pull that corner right up. All right. Now I'm gonna glop that glue on there and pull these over. Just like so. Flatten it out. And it's beautiful. All right, now for the top. Now I want to keep this all in place because when I put my spine in, I don't want to be seeing this part of the spine, because the spine that I have made to go in there is not going to cover clear up to the tippy top of the book. So it's awesome to have this little bit of extra fabric up there, because it'll give it that pretty finished look. So I start in the center, work my way out, and I'm not worried about fuzzies. They're going to be covered, or I can cut them later. Either way, it's not a big deal. All right, beautiful. I want a little more glue. That one's not staying down the way I want. So I'm just going to squeeze it in there, give it a little extra. And I'm going to go ahead and close that, double check how it's looking. Looking good. Okay, let's work the bottom over. Tuck it in those crevices really good. Okay. Easy peasy. And you just really want to make sure you get those edges down. So if they're coming up at all, just grab a little extra Mod Podge. Make sure they're really secure. Awesome. Bring that up, close it, make sure we've got everything looking good. And I'm gonna let this dry. So that's the general outside of the cover. And then the next step for me is going to be to put my signatures. I don't know if you can see, I have these tiny holes. Here's my awl. I'll point to them. See, I have these tiny holes that I used, that I got with my stencil. And I made these tiny holes that go through all those layers. So the next step is going to be to sew my signatures in, and then I'm going to glue. Some people will go right through the spine of the whole book, but I just didn't want to see on the outside of this journal. So I have made this super strong so it can withstand all of that. And when I glue all of these down, it's going to be very, very secure in there. So that'll be the next step. And we'll come back and show you a little bit more about how this is done later on. So thank you for watching. Hopefully it was helpful. Bye.